We'll give it a few minutes, see if anybody else shows up.
Have I been to this meeting before? I feel like I have.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Forgetting.
Sometimes we get a lot of people and sometimes we don't. So
Yeah.
usually it's a smaller group.
Well, anything that'll help me with Koha, I'm there. The one I'm really trying to get back into is the baby devs one.
Did you get your dev box set up yet? Your
No,
testing?
so because I'm IT and I are working on the LIDA thing and we've hit a few snags, so we've stopped all projects until that one's fixed.
I totally get that. Yeah. No, like I want to spend more time on it, but then I keep getting sidetracked. Like right now I've been derailed by permissions completely for the past week. And um that's what I'm gonna talk about here today, if
Oh,
there's nothing
wow.
else to talk about.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
I didn't come with anything to talk about. I'm just here to hang out.
Same.
Okay.
I
Well, it
guess
might be a short meeting.
I did do a couple of things since the upgrade,
Yeah, I
but
figure we could talk
nothing
about like
spectacular.
anything you had to change in the upgrade, that sort of thing. Because I had some of that stuff. Uh so yeah,
Upgrade
I guess
stuff. I understand what you mean by upgrade stuff.
yeah. I guess we can go ahead and get started. If other people join us, they can jump in too. So this is it's March, koha-US Web Dev Sig. Um, and we will talk about all things web dev, which is mostly just breaking things in Koha and fixing the things that we broke previously and fixed and et cetera, et cetera. So some of the stuff that broke for me in the upgrade was I have too much customization. I've established that and I'm trying to like cut back on it. But one of the things that we did like a long time ago, my libraries were really annoyed with how you add things to lists because you have to click an extra button and then like scan the items in and click another button. So I had taken that modal that pops up to add the items to the list and just put it on the screen to start with, so that they didn't have that extra click. And that like super broke with the bootstrap changes. It was just like this skinny window. Um, so I did have to rehash over that one, and I can share my screen to show what that looks like now. I'm not sure. I haven't put a bug in about this one just because I don't know if it's useful for other people, but maybe you guys can tell me if you think it's useful, and I can put in a bug. Let me bring up my tester. So whenever you go to add to a list, what I did was it's this button. It pops up the modal. So like if you don't have my customization, then you have to click on that button, scan the barcode, and click save. So what I did was just clone it to the top so that like whenever you open up any list, you can just start scanning. And I have it so that when the page loads, it focuses in on that box, which is less clicks, which is usually better usability. But yeah, that used to be a floating box over here and it like really broke during the upgrade. So I had to change some classes and I pretty much just rewrote the code on that one. I can look at that. So it would be somewhere. I bet I have it under virtual shell. Nope. This it's in here somewhere. And this is my big permissions mess that I was going to talk about. All right. So what I'm doing is cloning the add to list dialog to the top of the page, and then this code just it does that, and then this focuses the box. So that's the chunk that I'm talking about here. So that's one thing that broke in the upgrade that I had to fix. Another thing is just the kids pack in general was a mess. Uh, because of the again the bootstrap upgrades, like the search bar got all funky. So I ended up upgrading that plugin, which then again let me edit it, which I was having problems with before. And it's working again. I was able to get the layout to look okay again on the desktop. But I was excited that so the problem with with the kids plugin is that when you go to save things, it gives you an error. Um, it's an administration, isn't it? A fun area there. Children's unpack. So the configuration on this, whenever you go to save something in the kids plugin, it gives you bad requests because it's making a really, really long URL that includes all your custom code. But I found that if you like the save and continue button works now, I think, in the current version where it's sort of broken in this version on my test server. So I get to start working on that again when I find time. And then the other thing, like I mentioned, I've been working on is permissions. So the upgrade added permissions for purchase suggestions, it added permissions for lists. And I haven't done a permissions audit in forever. We're not using the batch permissions plugin. So I have it sort of laid out here what level of permissions we have for different people. So I've got a circulation cataloging director. And then I have a few other things where I'm like using jQuery where I shouldn't really be using jQuery. So that's another thing I need to work on. Um, it's corollary to these things. I've been using Christopher's old code to make checkboxes in the patron account or buttons. Sorry. So let me bring up just a patron account. So this is on the jQuery wiki, how to add these buttons that check boxes automatically. So circulation correlates to the circulation column here, cataloger and director, and they check different boxes. That sort of broke a little bit in the upgrade. It wasn't working how I wanted it to, but since every upgrade adds more permissions, the way that that's built is with these chunks of jQuery, and it's just going through the flags and then looking for the specific permission to check. So anytime something changes there, this code has to be updated, which is a pain. I'm not, like I said, using the batch permissions plugin, which I think
That's
might.
exactly why I switched to the batch permissions plugin. Is it's just a lot easier. You
So
don't
I
have to
haven't,
update that code every time.
if you use that and you add somebody to a list to give them that set of permissions, can you deviate from it at all? Like, can I give them circ permissions and then give them one extra permission that they might need that other people don't need? Or is it like flat? You're muted.
There's two different ways to use the batch permissions editor. One of them is to just one of them is to put the patrons in a list,
Mm-hmm. I'll
and
put you
then
in while you're
you
talking.
and then you run the batch, and then you run that list through the batch permissions editor. And so if you do that, then you can go in. So you have to manually add the patron to the list, and then manually run the list through the batch permissions editor. And if you do that, then you can go back to a patron and add different, you can add or take away individual patrons. But then the next time you run that list, it's going to put them back to where you had them.
It resets it. Okay, that's what I thought.
So what you can do is when you create a patron that you want to give them a special non-standard type of permission, you put them on a list by themselves, you run them through the batch editor, and then you can go, and then you take them off of the list and you go in and add and subtract the ones that you think they need.
Okay,
Um,
that
and
makes
so
sense.
it's a quick way to add all the permissions. And then you go in and you add the extra ones or take away the ones you don't want them to have. So it's a quick way of adding a batch of permissions. It's not that, it's a little harder than what you're doing, although you
Yeah,
don't have to maintain that code base.
so
The other
yeah,
way you can add patrons to use the batch permissions editor is that you create a list and then you connect that list to a template in the batch permissions editor. And then when you update the template, it will update everybody in the list when you just update the permissions template.
okay.
So, so there's two different ways to go about using it.
I
Um,
may look at that because I'm trying to get myself back to a baseline, but then I also have the situation where we've historically let directors at large libraries set permissions for their own patrons or for their own staff. So when they get a
right.
new staff member, they can set that up themselves, which I assume would just be a change to they have to add them to the specific list.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I have a bunch of different templates. And so I have like a circ template for circ full permissions and then a circ template for limited permissions. And so I need to know, that's the communication issue is the thing that needs to be ironed out between my libraries and the library directors and me is, I want to move this person from from the limited cert permission or the limited tech permissions to the full tech permissions or vice versa. So then it involves moving people from one list to the other mostly, and then updating the templates so that everybody in the list gets updated. So there are some, there's some advantages and disadvantages. It'd be nice if if there was a way to run an individual against the template rather than have to put them in a list to run the list against the template. If there was a way to run an individual against a template, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, just
Because
I
right
think
now it's all list driven.
yeah. So yeah, I was gonna show what else I've been doing in that regard. Um, so aside from those buttons, the which work for what I'm wanting at this
Yeah.
point, I've also added I've decided that we're a little too loose on what people can do. So I wrote some extra code to sort of lock down some of these checkboxes that we don't use. So anything that is a feature we're not using, I put a little band symbol. Anything that I need to set, I don't want my library setting, I put a little lock symbol. Um, and then there's like if there's sub permissions where it's a mix of those things, I put a little down symbol. And again, more code to maintain, so I should probably not be doing it that way. But I've found as I've got 265 staff accounts, and I've found that some people have like checked the ILL box. We don't use ILL, but since that person is the ILL person on staff, they thought they needed the ILL permission, which is probably a training issue as well. Like I need to train these people better on how to use this, but I figured it would be to my advantage to sort of make that less easy to mess up. So that's what I've been working on. And that code isn't terrible because I'm making an array of the permission values and I've matched it up to how it is on the screen. So like the circulate permissions that are banned and then the borrowers and the edit catalog. And then it's a pretty simple little script here where it's like if you're on the permissions page, look at the checkboxes. If it's in the ban list, put a ban symbol and disable the checkbox. Within the locks list, put a lock and disable. And if it's in the mixed list, which is the down arrow, do that. Um, I did run into some weirdness with it where the clear all flag or the clear all button, this is like standard in Koha, will reactivate all the boxes. Like that's built into the script for whatever reason. So uh proud of this one. I just got rid of that button and then made a new button that does what I want it to do. Um which is probably not the best way to go about things either. But so that's what this chunk is. Um and then these are the quick set buttons, like I said. So this is adding those links at the top and that legend at the top here. And then those correlate to these different things, which is an adaptation of what Christopher has on the wiki. And he also I also used to have his copy permissions thing, which is no longer needed because that's built into Koha, which is nice, where you can copy a set of permissions from one place to another,
I
from
like the
one
little
patron to another.
icons. I like those a lot.
Yeah, and I got tired of digging up um font awesome documentation, so I've just started using emojis because it's built in. Um, I don't know if that's good or bad practice, but it saved me some time.
I think the one danger with emojis is they might be different on different browsers, the way that they render. That's what I've
Right.
found with emojis.
Yeah, but I figured I was pretty safe with locks and bands. I don't know about the
Yeah,
down arrow. So that's what I've been digging through. I did have to update the big old nasty report too, so that I could actually
ugh.
run and see who has permissions. Um, so I tried the one that you put out there, George, but I ended up just updating. I think this is one that Christopher has out there, um, which works well enough for what I needed, but it's a pain. I did dig up some bugs related to this just to share. I don't have a bug specifically for what I'm talking about, but there is one talking about revamping the whole user permissions system, which I know is a thing that would be advantageous to us all if it got done. There's lots of see alsos on this bug and depends on the block. So there's lots of stuff to look at there. But the one a couple I wanted to highlight as well. This one is talking about like giving an overview of permissions that patrons have. And then this one is sort of the same thing where it's a display of what the permissions the patrons have. There's actually a plugin linked on this one that I haven't tried, but it looks like it just generates like a data table for you, so you don't have to deal with the running a report and keeping a report updated. But I don't know, like that plugin hasn't been updated since 2020, so I don't know how or if it's accommodating permissions as they get added. And then this is a bug just proposing that batch permissions modifier get added as base code. So just a few different permissions-y things. One other thing I was gonna mention, and it went out my brain. Maybe it'll come back.
I know I remember writing a report that was dynamic with the permissions editor, but I don't remember what it did. How did it break?
Which which part?
It would have just not run.
Oh, um, oh, I didn't talk about that. I tried to run a report that um looked at who had permissions and then looked to see if they had any activity in the past 6 months using the action logs, and totally hosed my test server. Like it ate up all the memory and crashed it. So I gave up on that and have just been digging through the action logs one by one on each patron, and that's what's been taking the most time because I do have patrons out there that haven't been using their accounts, and the libraries haven't told me that they need their permissions taken away. So I'm having to like dig for that information myself. Um, but as far as the base report for permissions, it wasn't really broken. It just didn't have all the permissions on it that it needed to have on it. Um, so I had to add more. lines to that select statement.
Okay. I know I rewrote it a while ago and I didn't remember if we did a video on that or not. So.
Yeah, and I like the one that you wrote where it's like it's got the column and it's like showing every permission
Oh,
in like a single column. This one does like each category of permission is concatenating the subpermissions into a column, so it's really wide. Um, but it works well enough for what I need. So yeah, that's what I've been digging through. Does anybody else have anything they want to talk about?
well, I can show what I've done since the upgrade. So let's see. This is one of two things that I've done lately. So this is our test server, and I've got my tabs here that there used to be when this used to be a system preference. This area was internet main user block, and I had some jQuery in that code block that built the tabs, and those don't work anymore because that permission got moved over to tools, HTML customization. And so the whole thing had to be the way to build tabs had to be completely rewritten. But the Bootstrap update actually simplifies things because it doesn't need any custom code. I did create some CSS to make it look the way I wanted it to, but I'm using it's the exact same code that creates the buttons that creates all this header at the top of the page. It's the exact same Bootstrap stuff. So there's a section for you create a nav section that creates the actual tabs, and then you create the different divs that hold the content that go with each class or with each tab. And so that was simplified a lot from where it used to be, where I had the custom code that created the tabs, and then the HTML that put the content into those tabs. And so it actually does this all without any extra jQuery at all. And then I use some stuff from Aspen Discovery to put a spotlight there so that there's every time we add something to our professional development collection, it just automatically appears here. And I need to check. This is not dynamic, but we subscribe to Library Journal through Flipster for our members. And so I've got now a place to put Library Journal every time there's a new issue. Every Monday morning, I check to see if there's a new issue, and if there is, I update the picture, and it just takes you straight out to Flipster. Which I don't know, the new EBSCO stuff, it's like it takes forever to finish loading that login page. So the other thing I did though is harder to demo. On login instructions, what I did is, I've had this for a long time on the login instructions page that's a reminder of the contact info. But what I did is I added some jQuery to the login instructions so that if we're closed, the message is different. So that way, if people try to log in, we have an issue after every time we upgrade, where somebody will invariably, they will go to clear the cache in their computer, and they'll go into Firefox and they'll tell it not just to clear the web cache, but they will also clear all of their web history, all of their saved everything, including their saved their saved passwords, which we tell them that they shouldn't be using the browser to save those passwords because it's not secure. But they always do. And then after the upgrade, they go in and they clear their cache and they delete all their old passwords. And so the day after the upgrade is also always a day here when people will have to phone in and say, I need my password reset. I don't remember the password. And so uh, so if naturally, since our upgrades usually happen on a Saturday, it's Sunday morning when the 5 libraries that are open, everybody's phoning at our after hours line to say, help me, I'm locked out. And so what it is if we're closed, there's just a message there that says that, remember, this is the after hours number, so that they can actually get help. Invariably, what happens is somebody will accidentally lock themselves out, and then they will send an email to the courier coordinator or something like that. And so it'll be like Tuesday before somebody says, hey, I got an email from so and so that they've locked themselves out of the system, and then I'll call and they've been doing offline circulation for 3 days. So I tried to plug the the message in a higher spot that says, remember, if we're currently closed, please call this number if you have trouble. And I'll try and share the code with that sometime soon. But it involves just creating a date, creating a jQuery date and time, and saying if the date is a Saturday or a Sunday, or if the time is after 5 p.m. or before 8 a.m., then use this message. And if it's during the time we're open, use the different message. So it's pretty simple. Anybody else doing cool stuff?
Not as cool, no. I want to, though, I'm mostly visiting your page, just trying to see if there's anything that you guys have posted. You and feel so bad, Christopher?
Christopher?
Yeah. That's like right now I'm looking at your protected patron video. I'm trying to figure out how to, because right now we have it suppressed, where we have the protected patron suppressed for yes or no, so that staff don't play with it. But I want to give that permission only to librarians, because we have all our staff like separated out according to what position you have in the library. So, and that's how we set up the permissions too. But I'm looking through it. I haven't finished watching your video, but if there's a way to just give permissions for the protected to the librarians and not to all circulation staff. So
I know that I think the code I wrote is when you're logged into Koha, um, the way that I set it up probably wouldn't work for what you're doing.
okay.
But if you go to look at the underlying code, there's this class in the body of every page.
Mhm.
There's a class is super librarian, is added to the body of every page when somebody who is a super librarian is logged in. So if you have those super librarian permissions, then you can write your code in such a way that says, if the staff, if the do all this stuff to the protected patron controls for all staff, but then if it's like, you can hide the protected patron stuff, and you can do all this stuff to it for everybody. But then if the class of the page contains is super librarian, then you can take away all those restrictions that you've put on the protected patron. That doesn't cover librarians. That doesn't cover 100% of staff, but at the very least, it covers your administrative staff.
Yeah.
And I use some other code that, in addition to, since at our system, um, everybody in our office, even though they don't do it, everybody whose home library is SEKLS has a lot of ability to do stuff in Koha. So I have some custom code that adds the the logged in user's branch code to the body of every page as a class. So I can also do it where it says, if the patron is logged in at SEKLS, if the user is logged in at SEKLS, then these different rules apply to these restrictions that I put on what people can do. Or if they are a super librarian, then the rules are different for them. So those are two ways that I get around a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, it doesn't do that for
The protected.
well, it doesn't do it for people that have partial permissions. So like a library director, if they're not a super librarian, they don't have that nothing happens to the page.
Don't know if I want to give that much access to the term.
Yeah, you probably don't, but there would be other ways to do things like that too. It's a bulkier, but you can say you can create a piece of code that says because one of the things that is embedded in every page is this stuff up here is in every page. So if we look up there at where it says G. Williams, the class of that element is logged in username. So I've also done this where you can write code that says you can create, like what Jason did, you can create an array of usernames and say if the logged in username is one of these usernames, then you can use that to define different rules.
Oh, okay.
So that's a bulkier way of doing it, because then every time, like if you give permissions to Marcia to do certain things and then Marcia quits, you've got to go in there and take Marcia's logged in username out of the custom code. So it's a more complicated way. It's a bulkier way of doing it, because every time staff changes,
Yeah.
you need to change that
And to be honest,
permission.
that's how we're doing it right now.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, we're doing one-to-one and single sign-on. So we've connected that. So
Oh yeah.
now we have to have a unique account for not like we can't use generic accounts anymore. Everybody has to have their
Yeah.
own connected to their email and stuff. So it's basically what we're doing.
Uh-huh.
It's not as fun as I thought it would be. I mean, it's great. It's great. You can sign in anywhere you want. Just the amount of work I underestimated the amount of work required in keeping track of everything. I won't do that.
I'm an expert at that.
Is there a club that I join? Do I get a pin? Like, it's not the first time I've done it.
No, you're more likely to have a heart attack by the time you're 60. I think that's the
No worries.
I was gonna mention, so if you do what George was saying, where you like creating an array of usernames, that does expose those usernames in your page
Yeah.
source. So if somebody's looking, they could potentially get that information. I did create sort of a better-ish way, and I put that on the wiki where you can put them on a patron list and then have your jQuery reference the patron list so that you're not exposing those names
Ooh, that's a good idea.
for a customization. So that's there, but it does love you have to leverage a report to look at the list, so that can be a little bit slow. Um,
That's how I can get them like the permission for just that one little
yeah,
section.
I like to call them jQuery pseudo permissions,
Ah,
where you're like making something work for only certain users. And if you tie that bit of code to the patron list using this chunk of code, then basically putting them on and off that list is giving them that permission. It's overly complex and there should be a better way to do it, but
oh, don't worry.
it's
I'm
fun.
going to ask our IT to help me look into it. Thank you.
I did remember another thing that I ran into a bug with the upgrade. I didn't run into it. Our circ desk staff here ran into it, and it's annoying. When you use the print drop-down menu on the patron account to print a slip or something, after you close the print dialog, the print drop-down is still there. So you have to like click again to make it go away. I can show you what I mean. And then I wrote some jQuery to work around it that I can share. I did not put it on the bug like I should. So like you're on a patron account, you click print slip, you print the slip or whatever. You don't, the menu doesn't go away, and it used to, like it should. Um, it's just an annoying little usability thing. So this is the code that I wrote in there. So it's saying if you're on the patron's account and you click the drop down item, then it removes the show class um after you click it. I don't think that broke anything important when I put that fix in. So now if I click print slip and cancel, it's not persisting anymore.
Have you added that to the wiki?
No, I was gonna put it on the bug um as my workaround band-aid solution for the problem.
Cool. I will look there later.
Anything else people want to talk about? Burning questions, things you wish Koha could do, um, customizations that you put in that should really be baseline in the code. Do what?
Floating modules should be more robust, I feel. Like
Like,
we shouldn't have staff be tracking like the floating module, like if for especially for like if it's pooling at certain branches kind of thing. I don't know what
oh,
Polaris did, or was it Polaris that we were at? We used to have floating with Polaris, but I'm trying to figure out what they did on the back end to track um pooling so that we didn't have to have staff go out and like count how many duplicates they have and then send it off to other libraries and stuff. That I would love to have that, like not not a deal breaker is what I'm saying. But I wish floating was a little bit more meaty.
We don't use that, so that's all on you to fix that.
Yeah. The people I've talked to is like, oh yeah, we're good. We don't really I feel like we're in the sweet spot where we're just big enough to where if we turn it on, it could cause a problem, but small enough that it doesn't really have a lot of interest in it. So I think it might have to be like an enhancement for us. If anything, we're gonna have to do like one of those enhancement requests or payments, whatever you call it.
I know that Heather with Bywater did a talk on this sort of thing, like dealing with rotating collections and things pooling and stuff at Qualcomm last year. I was trying to find the recording of it.
Ooh,
Um, it was on the second day of the, I don't know that they split those recordings out. It's definitely on the second day. So here's a link to that stream. You might have to
excellent.
dig for it. It looks like it was the first presentation though, so it shouldn't be too far in. But she talked about specifically those sorts of things, like things pooling and the different ways to sort of address it and things that could be better. Um, and Yeah.
I don't know why I never go to like the non-US Koha page. Thank you. This be a great help. Do a lot of fun stuff.
I was trying to oh,
Y'all
go ahead.
mentioned the offline, Koha offline. We are on tablets on the floor, so downloading something like that is not possible. But while y'all were talking about it, I was just brainstorming, and our self-checks are computers behind them, right? So do you think there's any way, what is the Koha offline? What are we downloading? Just a file or?
Yeah, there is a Koha offline circulation tool for Windows.
Oh,
And
okay.
if you download it and use it, what it does is it just remembers barcode numbers, really. And you can use it to check things out or check things in. And when you're done, when you close the program, it saves everything in a file with the .koc extension. And then there's a tool in Koha where you can upload that file with the .koc extension into Koha, and then it will process all of those transactions that happened offline based on the timestamps on those transactions in the Windows program.
So do it before you open.
So that's better than my Excel sheet I have rocking right now for when we're offline.
Yeah, but it won't run on a tablet is the issue. And there's
So-
some advantages and disadvantages of it. What I tell people is not to use the check-in part because it will not trigger any transfers or requests, so you'll miss
So you
all
have
that.
to check them in
It
again
just checks them
anyway.
in, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't do any of that stuff. So it's better to just set the things that are being returned aside. As far as checking things out, it does that just fine, because all it's doing is it's remembering. It knows the difference between Koha should know the difference between all it really is it's just a recording the data. So
Yeah, and then a more automatic upload rather than me having staff
yeah,
hand check out later. Because I'm brainstorming right now, and our self-check is from FE Technologies, and it's an overlay on a Windows PC. So I'm kind of thinking if we're down anyway, close the self-check software and open up the Koha offline, maybe.
yeah, and I think when you look at the circulation page,
That's where, thank you. I was like, I knew it was, yeah,
yeah.
upload offline circulation file. I might play with that.
So this is where you upload the file, and so this is where this link will get you to the application. The one that says get desktop application will actually take you out to the wherever it is, to the GitHub repository for that, and you can
Yeah.
download the file and install it. And then once the file is created on the computer, you upload it here. And when I worked at the library I was at in Idaho, we would go down and we would have 3 different computers, generating these files. And then afterwards, we'd upload all the ones from this computer, upload all the ones from the second computer, upload all the ones from the third. And then after they're all uploaded, then you go to pending offline circulations, and it'll show a list of all of those transactions that haven't been added yet. And And then from there, you tell Koha to process them. There's also a Firefox add-in that I kind of was under the impression that it didn't work anymore or very well or something. So I'm not sure. It's still there, so I don't know what kind of condition that is in, but I was told that it was better not to use that.
Okay.
So I don't know what anybody else was told.
Do you have a hotspot when you're offline? Like when your library's down?
I was thinking of that too, because why not just use, we don't have hotspots, we got rid of those, but I'm, like I do at Outreach, just use my cell phone hotspot. And make that work. We've been down twice since we got Koha. They were both for a very hectic 5 to 10 minutes. So we haven't experienced it yet, but man, I'd rather be prepared when it actually does. When it's actually this might take a while offline situation. So I feel like it's something that I've been putting off for a couple of years that I actually need to have a plan for. So, yeah. But yeah, if I have, and one was a Koha outage that was out for all of us, I think, a few days ago, a week ago or so, a while ago. I think it was a few weeks now. Anyway, but they fixed it really, really quickly. And then the other one, we just had a 5-minute glitch the other day. But yeah, I need to get a plan in place for when that actually does happen.
I only have 1 or 2 libraries that use the offline circulation tool. Most of my libraries are so small that they can, unless it's going to be down for days, it's more effort to use the offline circ than.
Oh, okay.
But I
So
have a
we might be at
couple,
the small library point also. Okay.
yeah, I have a couple of libraries that, check out. I have one that in January checked out less than 10 items in the entire month.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, in the entire month, less than 10 items.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
It's a
in this
pretty
5 minutes, we
small
were checking
town.
out about 10 items. So, okay, so it might benefit us.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
The
Yeah.
ILS I used before Koha, we would go down for 3 days for an upgrade. That's a long story, but we would be completely without the ILS for 3 days. And it had an offline circulation module too that just did checkouts, but it was monumentally annoying.
Yeah, Polaris had actually a really cool, because we were using their Polaris Leap, which was their web-based version of their software, and they had an offline that you didn't have, there wasn't a download or anything. It just held, I don't know how it worked now, but it was easy, it was simple, and
It was
now I
Leap.
need to find, yeah.
Leap was so awesome, way better
Yeah.
than theirs. I wish we did, honestly.
Yeah, that was why we went to Koha, was because we had enough staff members who refused to make the leap. Anyway, so we're like, well, a forced leap then to Koha. But I liked Leap also. Yeah.
I like
There's one thing I
Koha
really-
even more.
Huh?
If anybody's watching, I like Koha even more.
Oh, it's cool too. It's cool too.
Yeah.
There was something that Polaris did that I've been pining for also, and it was when you're pulling holds, you could hit this one little checkbox and hit update, and it would move that item into an in transit to check-in status. So it took it off your holds to pull list, but it didn't check it in yet. And that was groovy also, because we pull holds all day, every day. And so we might have somebody looking for a hold that somebody literally just has on their cart that they just pulled. But that's a luxury that we can live without.
Well, I need to go get ready for a different meeting that starts in a few minutes, so I'll see you all later.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. I feel like that should be doable. Like
Feel like
you,
it is. I feel like we have that in Koha. I think it's called like the trans. I feel like I was just reading about it too. It's like a. Okay, I've got a lot
Getting
of.
me all excited now.
I know, because we automatic confirm transfer. I think you put the don't for the automatic confirm transfer, and then it pops up the message saying, are you sure you want to transfer this or something?
you
I feel like that's
you would still need something like on your pick list to trigger that though, because like
Oh,
checking it in triggers it, but checking it in is gonna capture the hold anyways. So you're talking about before you get to the check-in point, you want to push something that says, "Hey, this is in limbo. Don't look for it anymore."
mhm.
Um, yeah,
It like put it in an almost in storage space. Like it was part of a transfer, even though it wasn't, it was the transfer was from the shelves to check in. Uh yeah.
and there's Koa has like a pending transfer thing, and I don't know how you activate that. Like,
Yeah. I think I've been playing with it enough and there I got close if we were to use the holds queue, but we use holds to pull because we're only one branch.
oh, okay.
And so that also I think that limits us. But yeah, not a huge, it's
I think it's
not a deal breaker, just a
it's still a valid thing to like
yeah.
throw out in the ether and say, "Hey, add a hold has been pulled button to the holds to pull, but
Yeah,
holds to pull
yeah.
page or something like that." And I'm sure somebody could work out the how to make that work. I
Their
mean,
magic.
if the other ILS can do it, Koa can do it. It just
mm,
they just need to know that we want Koa to do
That
that.
it's a
So
want. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
yeah, no, okay, maybe, oh, maybe I'm going crazy. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
That's it.
No, no.
Oh, maybe I'm going crazy. That makes sense.
No, I mean like I feel like I was just talking about that with our circ staff, and they were telling me that after the last update, we used to have that where after they checked it in a second time, it got it off the holds queue and had it stay in branch, and they didn't have to worry about it anymore. Or I could just be, it's like mass hysteria. Everybody remembers like the wrong thing.
Yeah. Write down mmyers at ulistx.gov though, and if it comes back to you, let me know. Yeah.
I am, I might just be emailing you this. And sorry, I'm Charlie.
Oh, yeah.
I'm assuming you're Molly.
Yes.
I might email you if that's okay
Yeah.
about this because
Yeah.
now it's now I smell the blood.
Yeah.
I'm gonna track it down a little bit.
Yeah, cool.
And I feel like I have your email. You're in this group, so
Yes.
as long as
I'm
I
in.
do the listserv for this group.
Yes, I've been a creeper for a long time and yeah.
Yay, fellow creeper.
Yay. Probably seen me around the SIGs, so
Yeah, there's this chick Molly. I know it. Big. I'm sorry. Oh, this is how humans interact now.
Um, I will mention that the Koa-US Development Committee is going to start looking for the next development too. So be thinking about that if there's some feature like this that you wish could be improved, like that, or your floating collection pooling sort of thing. If there's not a bug out there, try and get a bug out there. If there's a bug out there, try and get a quote from Bywater and get them on the dev site so that even if you can't fund it, we can see it in the list of stuff that we might want to consider
Yeah.
throwing koha-US funding at.
They have the dev meeting right before this one, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the development committee meeting is at 11 o'clock or my time, an hour before this meeting every month. So if there's something that you want to work out, we can talk about, like, if you've never done a spec for a development, or if you just want to talk through your spec for a development, that's something that that committee can help with as well.
I will add another meeting to my calendar. I honestly didn't want to go to all the meetings because I was kind of scared people would start getting sick of my face. So like,
Is that how you feel about me? Because I go to every meeting ever.
no, I feel like I'm like you're my best friend now, even though you don't know that.
We can be besties. It's great.
That just made it awkward. You're welcome.
That's what we're all about at
Yeah,
the Web Dev Sig, is making things awkward. So
I love it.
we all live in that space. It's a safe space here. So
Um,
yes, please come to every meeting if you feel like it. No one's
I-
gonna get sick of your faces.
yeah, I just want to know what everybody's talking about so I can go back and like talk to all the circulation staff and tell them what you guys told me. So that's basically why I go to every single one. Trying to
Yeah.
put more, what do you call that? Where you can see through glass.
Transparency.
Transparency?
Yes. I got you.
Oh, God. It's
Yeah.
been a while.
Yeah, you
I'm
learn a
already
whole
at
bunch
2
just by listening to people talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always learning stuff. I mean, I've been doing this forever, and I'm still like a few weeks ago I went to something and Andrew's like, why don't you just use this permission? I'm like, I should have known about that permission, but it's not in my brainosphere. So
Actually, you're a big part why I'm learning SQL because of that book. That book is very easy to understand. And I'm like, it's very slow going for me because it takes a while for me to remember things, but it's helping a lot. Whenever I have like a reference question or anything like that, I just open up. Actually, I think my book is here. It's here somewhere.
What book is it?
It's
equal for
SQL
mere mortals or something like that.
Yeah, for mere
Because we
mortals.
are mere mortals.
Yeah, and that's what sold me on the book, just because, oh, I feel like a mere mortal whenever I come to these meetings, so this will make me powerful.
Let's see if I can find it.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
not like a too up-to-date version of it, but I mean, it's still got sort of basic concepts and stuff that are useful when you're learning SQL.
Yeah, and that's what I need. My next step is learning
It's an
jQuery and
Amazon
all that
link.
stuff. So
Oh, great, we have it. Voice.
that's the one.
Yeah, so like the fourth edition is the most recent. It's from 2018, but things changed, but not that much.
We hope.
We hope. Yeah. If you manage to crash your Koha server by using that book to write SQL, I'm sorry.
Okay, now it's a challenge.
I don't recommend it.
I know I'm not gonna do it. I'll try it on the test server because thank goodness we have that.
Yeah, that's what I crashed my test server, thankfully not my production server. But I did see an interesting error that I'd never seen before. It was like the the memory is full, waiting for somebody to fix this or something like that.
425. Is that the error?
No, it was like a actual, like, one of the errors you see when you run a SQL report.
Okay, yeah. That was the first time I ever ran into a 425. It's like too many tabs open. I was like, I never knew that was a thing.
Oh no. I guess I haven't actually reached that limit. I feel like I've gotten to a point where I do have too many tabs open every day of my life. All right, it's 1 o'clock.
Yes.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank
Yep,
you.
thanks for coming and we'll meet again next month.
Yes.